What is up, BookTube? I'm here to talk about The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. And I have opinions. The bulk of this review is going to be negative, I feel. But I did enjoy the book, and I would encourage other people to read this book. It's just, I think that there are aspects I think warrant more of a discussion than other parts of the book. I do recommend it. I do think people should read it. I will be watching the movie when it comes out later this year. So that being said, The Sun is Also a Star is the story of Natasha, who is a Jamaican American, and she's being deported, which is not funny, so I shouldn't laugh, but she's being deported, and it's her last day in New York, and so this is when she meets Daniel, who is a Korean American, and they have a sort of flirtation on her last day. The premise I thought was really fine, whatever. I didn't really find out about the premise until like a week ago. Like I said, like this book is out. It's been popular the entire time it's been out, but it just wasn't something that was on my radar. So I read it because the movie is coming out, and when I first started reading it, and this is the first thing I want to talk about, is that it did remind me a lot of They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, and only in the sense that they're formatted similarly. They both are told from the love interest point of view, with other chapters that give glimpses into random passerbys' perspectives that sort of impact the plot. I do think they were implemented better here in The Sun is Also a Star. They were a little bit less integral to the plot. At the end, they sort of became material, just like in Adam Silvera's book. This one did come out first, so I'm not saying that there's like a copying situation happening. But when I was done with the book, because they were told in such similar perspectives, and they were both contemporary romances with diverse characters, it did make me feel a little weird about rating this one down when I loved They Both Die so much. And I think what I've discovered, my hypothesis is, there were elements of this book that I didn't fuck with. And the part that really sort of, I don't say it didn't ruin it for me, but this has been a recurring thing for me in contemporary diverse romances where there's just microaggressions, and like for me that's just not, it's not a cute look when, and I think what really bothered me is that there's a time crunch element here. So it wasn't that when Daniel's family was being anti-black that was a problem. I thought that it was really a nice thing to talk about anti-blackness in the Asian community, just like it was a nice thing to talk about how Asian people profit from, their beauty supply stores that are frequented by black people. I thought all of that was a really interesting sort of discussion to go into, and how that like those dynamics. But I like personally, I think it'd be really hard for me because Daniel was low key anti-black before they even went into the store. A little, like, that was the first microaggression, and then when they went into the store, his dad was like super questionable. His brother was super questionable, and it was just like, if you only have 12 hours left in your day, it was really hard for me to be like, this is who she wants to spend it with. I think if it had been in any other sort of situation, I could have gotten over it. I think that was what was really more upsetting to me, and not the sort of series of coincidences that brought them together. Because I think that the series of coincidences weren't really that bad in retro. Like, they weren't what broke my suspension of disbelief for this book. It was the anti-blackness. After they had known each other for like 2 hours, if that, it was very quick into them getting to know each other. I also think that the book ended in a way where it wanted to have its cake and like eat it too. Like, it wanted to present this bittersweet ending, but then subvert it immediately. And I was not a fan of that, mostly because I thought that the coincidence that got them to the ending was already contrived. I thought that was already contrived. Now, to be fair to this book, I did expect it to have a happy ending because while I haven't read everything, I am aware of the plot twist ending of that book, and so I was expecting something here. And so I think in that way, Nicola Yoon doesn't do that. Like, it ends in a very realistic way that I would have really appreciated. And then I read the epilogue, and the epilogue to me was just really fucking bad because, again, it wanted to have this bittersweet moment and then immediately subvert it. And the epilogue was also just poorly written, in my opinion. It was not something I was a fan of. It was not something I fucked with. So I did give it 4 stars. I do think people should read it, but I also feel like this is maybe one of those books that is going to make a better movie. I don't know. Now, just to end on a sort of happier note, I did appreciate Daniel as a character. He was really nice to read. I appreciated Natasha as a character. She was also really easy to read. I could connect with her on some levels. I thought her family was really interesting. I do wish that the novel had sort of delved a little deeper onto like the sort of family dynamics. I think that those were a little bit more interesting than the romance between Natasha and Daniel. Um, but that's not what the story was. Like, that wasn't the story it wanted to tell. It wanted to tell a romance, and it succeeded in telling a romance. And I enjoyed it for the most part. So if you've read, can I talk? If you have read The Sun Is Also a Star, leave your comments down below. I would love to have a discussion with you. That's really it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video. But until then, bye.